Hello and welcome to the Just Mary's Minecraft show. I like giving things a name. But let's not waste any time. Just go straight into Super Fun World. Today it's not a shared super okay world day. And while we're waiting for everything to load, you should subscribe. So today, let me see, is it still nighttime? Yep. Okay, I guess we'll just hit stuff with our hands then. Maybe with this pickaxe. So today I have one topic, and it was suggested by Sarah. You should check out our video on the Met Gala. We discussed all of the, well, not all of the, some of the fashion that we saw, and you know, spoiler, it wasn't as good as last year, I would say. But even last year, I don't know. But you should definitely watch it on her channel. Let me just quickly see. What am I doing? Make a little thing. Yeah. But she suggested the topic of the first world's trillionaire. That's also true. The world's first trillionaire. That is the topic. And obviously that refers to Elon Musk recently becoming the world's first trillionaire because of the SpaceX IPO. And I mean, there's a lot of things you could say around that. It's just like a lot. It's just insane, right? Like, first of all, like the valuation of SpaceX and also Tesla, to be fair, are insane if you believe in any sort of like fundamentals of businesses. Like, Tesla is clearly on the downswing, right? Like, everyone can see that. Like, the Chinese EV makers are completely eating their lunch, and even companies like Toyota and Volkswagen are much more profitable, have more future, I would say. And still, Tesla is extremely highly valued, like at insane amounts. There's a thing called PE ratio, which means profit. No, one second, I forgot. PE ratio stands for. It doesn't mean profit earnings. What does it mean? I will look this up quickly. Not make a fool of myself. Maybe I will edit it out. PE ratio. Price earnings. That makes sense, of course. And anyways, what it says is how much is the stock price. So the stock times the amount of stock is how much the company is valued. And then the earnings is how much a company makes with accounting principles in a year. And so the question is, like, what is the ratio of this? And I think with Tesla is like over 100. And with like most normal companies, it's like between 10 and 20. And one way to think about this is how many years would the company have to make profit to basically buy its own valuation? Yeah. That's one, I mean, fun way to think about this. So if for the next 100 years Tesla puts all its profit into buying its own stock, it could buy itself. Fucking weird. But yeah, so like this already shows like it's completely based like on the idea of that it's going to be like so much bigger in the future, which just seems completely bizarre when it comes to Tesla. And then now with SpaceX, there's so much more trickery and nonsense going in. I don't know if any of you followed what's been happening there specifically. Let me see, can I put this on top here? Never did that. You can. What do I need? What do I need? Not really anything. But yeah, so there's a couple of controversies, and a few things that are crazy about the SpaceX valuation. So how do we start? So maybe the controversy is one thing that they did for the initial public offering to put the SpaceX stock on the market is that they asked indexes which try to get like a picture of like the whole market. A famous one is the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq. They tried to get them to change their rules to include SpaceX faster than would usually be the case. This has been particularly the case for the Nasdaq, which follows tech stocks. And so, like one way that people think of it is it kind of like it's trying to get investors who just passively invest, like in their retirement fund or something like that, in a whole market index or in an S&P 500 or Nasdaq fund, to get them to pay for a SpaceX stock immediately. And so the Nasdaq did change it, and then another one, like Russell, I think, I forget, another fund also changed it. But the S&P 500 in the end decided not to change its rules, and so Tesla is not going to be, SpaceX is not going to be part of that index because it's not profitable, among other reasons. But like to first get into that index, the S&P 500, you need to at least be profitable. And SpaceX is very unprofitable. It's losing a shitload of money. So yeah, but other funds are going to immediately take them. So like I said, the Nasdaq and the MSCI World actually didn't change its rules, but they already had rules which made it possible for certain stocks to be added faster than usual, like within 15 days, which is going to be like sometime next week, I think. But okay, so here's another thing. Like the question is also with indexes, like how much do they actually buy? This is like an idea you can make this in different ways, and like what the MSCI World, for example, does is it buys according to how much of the stock is actually on the market. So with wait a second, with SpaceX, it's I think going to be relatively little, maybe 5% or something like that. I don't know. I don't have the numbers here, but they're not trading that many shares of the whole company. And so that means it's only going to be like a relatively small amount of the overall fund that you're following. How do I best explain this? So if it's like, if it were like 100%, if the whole company is not privately held, but it's all traded on the open market, then so 100% of it is going to be counting towards the its valuation in the index. So for example, if you look at like something like the MSCI World right now, Nvidia and Apple, which have a lot of stock that's just openly traded for anyone to buy, are like the really big ones. They're really expensive companies, like 5 trillion or something like that is their valuation. And most of the stocks are being traded, so they're like a massive amount of the MSCI World. I think like, I don't know, 6% or something like that is Nvidia, and then I don't know, 4% is Apple. You can check that, it also changes. But SpaceX, even though overall the company is valued at now 1.7 trillion, I don't know, something like that. It's a pretty big company suddenly, you know. The actual stock that is traded on the open market is relatively small, like I think like maybe 50 billion. I'm saying relatively small if these are not massive numbers, but we're talking about like, you know, the current world market, and that's really the comparison. So in the end, like SpaceX, if you have an MSCI World, I think it's just going to be like 0.3% of this portfolio. And I I am mainly a passive. No, I'm actually exclusively a passive investor, not mainly. And so I'm just like, well, I can't predict where the stock market goes. So I'm fine with it being like, in there if it's by the rules of the index that I followed. But potentially they are kind of like they can take advantage of certain investors. So I was saying this is the Nasdaq, though. Has a different rule. One second. Oh, what am I doing? Getting all of this stuff. Because like usually the Nasdaq actually gets 100% of the company in its, regardless of how much is available on the open market. Oh, a bee! Look how beautiful! I love these bees. Or maybe it's a bumblebee. My Neopet is called Bumblebee. That's just a fun fact about me. So usually they would just get like the valuation of the company, and then like Tesla would be counted as the 1.7 trillion. Although they now, with the change of rules to include Tesla, they also changed it so that they are only taking 3 times of the stocks that are made available. They call this the float, actually. So every time I said the stocks available on the open market, what I meant is the float. So for the Nasdaq, like they will have to, whenever there's like new stocks going out, they will have to get 3 times as much. Not the Nasdaq itself, it's just an index, but the funds that are following trying to track the Nasdaq. So there's a bit of a taking advantage of some investors, I would say. But either way, so the other thing about there being like the float being relatively small also means that the valuation can be higher with fewer investors, right? And then that's kind of the other aspect of like Elon Musk now being a trillionaire. Like compared to what the company actually does, it's like it basically just trades on vibes, right? And so there's like people who like Elon Musk that invested in it. Like all my banks, and I have a few banks, were basically telling me, it's like, oh, do you want to join the lottery to buy SpaceX, the biggest IPO? You need to be part of it. And again, I don't invest in individual stocks. I'm not. What would I say? Arrogant enough to assume that I could beat all of the systems in place and predict which companies are going to be the next winners. Especially not like by the time I can buy their stock. So anyways, the thing is, right, like Tesla and SpaceX in a way are kind of like meme stocks to a degree too. I mean, they're real companies. That's not like they're doing stuff. Like Tesla does make cars and they do sell them, and SpaceX does make rockets and put satellites in orbit that give internet to people, which is their most profitable business. And they try to scam people with AI. I mean, like but the AI offering. So that's the crazy thing, right? Like if you look at the SpaceX filings, what they're saying is that why it should be worth so much is not the rockets, which they lose them a little bit of money, which fair enough, they have R&D or whatever, but they do have a fine rocket business, or the satellites, which make them a good amount of money. No, what they're saying is this stock should be worth this much because AI is going to be so big, and the addressable market for them is going to be 27 trillion. So all of the AI profits are going to go to SpaceX because it has Grok. And like everyone agrees, this is like possibly the worst model on the market, right? Is anyone thinking Grok is going to win the AI wars? Do we have people who believe this? And even then, like we think it's going to be this profitable. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just really based on vibes, you know. And yeah, I mean that's kind of the fact of the stock market to a degree all the time. But like usually, like it does. There's still like some underlying things that are like reality, and it does kind of feel like we're particularly now, like even the biggest ones are not based on any sort of reality anymore. So who knows? Those are my thoughts. I didn't really speak about, like, you know, all of the problems with Elon Musk as a person and politically acting individual, of which there are many. I just wanted to like talk a little bit about the stock and the craziness of this. And also, like when I was young, like Bill Gates already had like 50 billion, I think, right? That was like the biggest thing. And now, you know, through this memery, we have a trillionaire. Although to be fair, like everyone besides him is like still like at like more 250 billion or whatever. Insane amounts of money either way. But yeah, the increase, kind of crazy. Yeah, and it's a sign of the times. Most people struggling, but you know, single person, now trillionaire. That's the financialization of everything. Yeah, so I mean, it's not like I can predict the timing of this, but I do think like at some point Tesla and SpaceX and generally actually all AI stuff needs to come down, because like the promises are not in line with any sort of reality that actually exists. And I guess I'm ultimately, however black-pilled I am, still a believer in reality, I guess. So maybe egg on my face. Anyway, so do you have any thoughts about this? Is there anything that has been on your radar surrounding it? I've been kind of like listening to more finance YouTube for some reason. I guess they just get pushed, you know, when things like this IPO happen. And I like this guy Patrick Boyle, and even though I don't always agree with everything, he makes pretty good videos. Yeah, I think that's everything for me. This doesn't look that good yet, but you know, maybe we make a nice little cellar. I want to have like a lot of space actually. I want it to be massive. Like I want to look up and not even see the roof. It has to be at least 3 times as big. Okay, that's the video for today. Tell me what you think. Keep staying subscribed and stay spoopy, friends. Bye.